Hi, my name is Clementine Rutherford, and the country that I chose is Algeria. Its official name in Arabic is Al Jumhuriyya Al Jazeera Ad Demokratia Ash Shabia. The international name is People's Democratic Republic of Algeria. And this is the official flag. Its climate in the north is a very Mediterranean, mild, wet winters with hot and dry summers along the coast up by the capital city. The high plateau in the middle is drier with cold winters and hot summers, and way in the south it's pretty much a desert. It has a lot of natural resources with rich deposits of iron ore, phosphates, lead, zinc, antimony, and deposits of petroleum and natural gas. It's Africa's largest country, about 4 times larger than France, and 2.38 million kilometers, which I figured out is about 1.48 million miles squared. It has a population of about 40 million people as of 2016. Its capital city is Algiers. There's the 4 regions of terrain: the coastal, mountainous, the plains and high plateaus. There's a mountain chain in the interior, and then an area with a lot of big mountainous masses that aren't actually mountains. Algeria's official language is Arabic, but French is commonly spoken, as well as Tamazight and other Berber dialects. Algeria has a very long history with France. In 1827, France blockaded Algeria for 3 years. And then in 1830, when that blockade failed, France used that failure for a military expedition against Algiers, kind of in retaliation. In 1836, the Violet Plan granted full citizenship to only a certain categories of Algerians who had deemed that they were praiseworthy. They might have served in the military or done something that the colonists who had come from France decided that gave them merit. In 1848, nearly all of Algeria was under French control, and the new government of the Second Republic declared the occupied lands a very important part of France. In World War I, the Algerian Muslims sided with the French because they were occupied by French. From 1933 to 1936, there was an increase in Algerian social, political, and economic crisis, and that incited political protests from the indigenous people of Algeria. But the government responded with more restrictive laws concerning public order and security. So their protests did not help. In World War II, the Algerian Muslims once again sided with the French. And then in 1943, the Muslim leader presented the French administration with the Manifesto of the Algerian people that demanded the immediate and effective Algerian political participation and equality for Muslims. This was signed by 56 Algerian nationalists and international leaders. But the next year, the French instituted a reform package, once again based on the 1936 Violet Plan, that only gave certain Algerian Muslims citizenship. In 1945, on May 8th, Victory in Europe Day tensions between Muslim and colonists exploded when a Muslim march was met with violence and the marchers rampaged. Thousands of Muslims were killed. The numbers were much lower according to the French, but according to other sources, the deaths were in the tens of thousands. In 1947, French National Assembly approved the government-proposed Organic Statute of Algeria. This would have created an Algerian assembly with one house representing the Europeans and the praiseworthy Muslims that had already been granted citizenship, and another representing the remaining Muslims in Algeria. However, both the colonists and the Muslims voted it down for differing reasons. On October 31st, 1954, the newly formed FLN, Front de Libération Nationale, issued a leaflet stating that its aim was to restore a sovereign Algerian state. So they wanted Algeria to be its own country again. They recognized that Algeria had fallen behind other Arab states in social and national emancipation, and they claimed that this could be fixed by a very long, drawn-out struggle, and it would be very difficult. They stated that they would use two weapons: guerrilla warfare at home and diplomatic activity abroad. On November 1st, 1951, the FLN began attacking in different parts of Algeria, and the war had begun. In August of 1955, a massacre of civilians by the FLN near the town of Philippeville resulted in an all-out war in Algeria. From 1958 to 1959, France won military control over most of Algeria, but they were losing control politically. There was growing pressure in France and internationally to grant Algeria independence. And then, June of 1958, Charles de Gaulle was elected Premier of France, and he allowed the Muslims, including women, which was very important for them, to register to vote with the Europeans on a new constitution. Let's see. Then in September 1959, de Gaulle made statements in favor of a majority rule in Algeria, angering the colonists who felt that he betrayed them, which led to more insurrection in Algeria. In May of 1961, the talks with the FLN reopened, and in June of 1962, the Evian Accords were approved by the French electorate. These accords gave colonists and Algerians equal legal protection for 3 years, after which the colonists would be required to become citizens, or they would lose their citizen status and be classified as aliens in the country. Then on July 1st of 1962, 6 million of the 6.5 million Algerians who were able to vote voted on the referendum for independence. and the result was nearly unanimous in favor of independence, of having their freedom. Finally, on July 5th of 1962, Algeria became a free country. There's a lot of traditional Algerian dishes that are mainly centered around bread, meats, olive oil, vegetables, and fresh herbs. I don't know how to pronounce most of these. So the first one, the majouba, I think, is a traditional Algerian pancake made with semolina and stuffed with tomatoes and caramelized onions. The next one, the rechta, is a traditional Algerian dish consisting of thin, flat noodles and a chicken sauce with lots of vegetables. Chickpeas seems to be a common thing among a lot of the dishes. Then there's the chorba fric, which is a tomato-based soup made with meat, chickpeas, and an ancient grain called fric, and it's seasoned with traditional Algerian spices such as mint or coriander. Finally, the last one, the tagine zitoun, is made with a combination of chickpeas, olives, onions, carrots, mushrooms, thyme, bay leaves, lemon juice, and saffron or turmeric. For politics, Algeria is a presidential republic. Their current president is Abdelmajid Tebboune. They are based around a constitution, and their citizenship is by descent only. And I thought it was interesting that it has to be that your mother must be a citizen of Algeria for you to be a citizen. You can become a citizen through naturalization, and it requires you to live there for 7 years. They have a mixed legal system of French civil law and Islamic law because that is their religion. Let's see. So the branches of the government is quite a bit like ours. They have their executive branch with the chief of state and head of government, which would be the president. And then they have the cabinet, and the members are appointed by the president. And everyone is elected through elections or appointments. They have a bicameral parliament, much like ours, in the legislative branch. So they have the Council of Nation, which is their upper house with 144 seats, and a third of them are appointed by the president. The other 2/3 are elected by a simple majority in the country. They are elected every 2 years, but their term limit is 6 years, that their term is up after 6 years. The National People's Assembly, which is the lower house, has 462 seats, with 8 seats for Algerians who are abroad. And they are elected regionally with multiple seats to each region, much like our Senate. They are elected every 5 years. Finally, in the judicial branch, they have the Supreme Court with 150 judges, and then there's the 4 divisions that they divide themselves up into for civil and commercial, Social Security and labor, criminal, and administrative. There is also a constitutional council with 12 members, including the court chairman and the deputy chairman. There are some environmental issues in Algeria, with a large one being desertification. desertification, which is a result of poor farming practices or leading to soil erosion because they are turning up the soil but not doing anything with it. It's the main one. There's a lack of drinking water due to rivers and coastal waters becoming polluted from sewage dumping, petroleum wastes, and other industrial wastes. Algeria has not yet reached the ideal worldwide goal of having 10% of its land protected. Okay. Algeria is kind of a crossroad of four worlds. They have a mix of Mediterranean, Arab, Amazigh, and African cultures. There's a rich arts and crafts history, and it's known for its intricate carpet weaving and delicate pottery work. There's also a long tradition of excellence in wooden sculptures, copperwares, ceramic art, basket making, and jewelry design. There's some important holidays that some are similar to ours, others are different. They, of course, have New Year's Day, and then there's the Amazigh New Year for part of their culture. They have Labor Day to celebrate all the hardworking citizens in the country. In April, Ramadan begins, which is part of the Islamic religion. On July 5th is their Independence Day. And in November 1st, they have Revolution Day, which is when the war for their independence began. And finally, here's a few of the celebrities that I found who were born in Algeria. Sophia Boutella, 38, is a dancer and an actress. She was in Kingsman and Atomic Blonde. Islam Salami is 32. He's a soccer player. There were quite a few soccer players that I found. Dalia Chi is a pop singer. And Khaled is a folk singer in Algeria. And then I have my bibliography. I think that's it. I really hope you enjoyed.